My husband wasn't even cold yet, and my son said 7 words that shattered me, not screamed, not sobbed, just spoken, low and calm, like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing, it was everything. And the worst part? I don't even think he knew I heard him. You ever catch a sentence, just one line, that spins your whole world sideways? Like your chest forgets how to rise and fall properly? Yeah, that. Have you ever heard something you were never meant to? Something that changed how you see someone forever? Comment yes or no. I'm reading every single one, and if you're already feeling this, don't just scroll. Tap that like button. Hit subscribe. This one's gonna sit with you. The church smelled like lilies and old wood and sorrow. Everything was too quiet, except the priest's voice, droning through verses that sounded like wallpaper, not comfort. I was sitting on the front row, hands clenched in my lap, trying to hold it together for the 5th time that day. My husband, Alaric Anthony, lay in the casket not 10 feet from me. His tie was crooked, he hated ties, and his face didn't look like him anymore. You think you'll cry, you think you'll break, but sometimes grief is just blank space. Then came the moment I wish I could unlive. The moment my son Ariella leaned against the stained glass wall near the back of the church, turned away from everyone, and whispered into his phone. His voice was low, but not low enough, his shoulders stiff, and he said, "She won't survive the truth, not now." That was it. 7 words. And they shattered me more than the coffin, more than the eulogy, more than the final sound of earth hitting the wood. He didn't know I was behind him. He didn't see me freeze. He didn't hear my breath catch in my throat like it was trying to stay in my body. But I heard him. And I knew in my gut, not my head, not my heart, but in that deep part of you that just knows. Whatever he meant by the truth, it wasn't about grief, it wasn't about death, it was something else. Something rotting. And I couldn't pretend I hadn't heard it. I didn't say a word at the reception, didn't confront, didn't accuse. Just watched. Watched Ariella move through the room with practiced ease, hugging guests, laughing at memories. Eyes a little too glassy, smile a little too easy. I wanted to believe he was just being protective. That maybe he was trying to shield me from something small, some misplaced detail about his dad's will, or a forgotten voicemail, or, I don't know, something explainable. But my body didn't believe it. And if you've ever lost someone you loved, you know what I mean when I say, grief makes you sharper, not softer. You start noticing things. You hear behind people's words. You see shadows where there used to be smiles. And I saw one on my son's face that day. A flicker, a tension, like he was hiding something behind every blink. So I waited, not like a mother, but like a stranger in her own home, suddenly unsure of the rules. The funeral ended, people left, the food got cold, and the only thing that stayed was that sentence, those 7 words, "She won't survive the truth, not now." I didn't know what he meant, but I knew one thing for sure. Whatever truth he thought I couldn't survive, I needed to find it. Because grief already took my husband, and I wasn't about to let it take my son, too. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the edge of the bed, with the house too quiet around me, clutching a chipped ceramic teacup I didn't even realize I'd grabbed from the sink. The crack down the side looked deeper now, wider, like maybe it had been holding itself together just for him. And now? Now it was just a cup with too many memories and a leak I hadn't noticed until hot tea dripped onto my wrist. I didn't flinch. The heat felt like proof I was still here. It's funny how you start replaying everything after they're gone. Like your brain gets stuck on rewind, combing through old moments, asking, was that real? Did I miss something? Did he flinch when I touched him? Did I pretend not to notice? Alaric and I weren't fireworks. We were flickering porch lights and matching grocery lists. He used to draw little smiley faces next to peanut butter on the fridge notepad. We'd been married 22 years, and the truth? It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Or I thought it was. We met in the cereal aisle. He was holding 2 boxes, one healthy, one sugary, and arguing with himself out loud. I said, "Pick the sugar. Life's already hard enough." He grinned and said, "You just saved my cholesterol and my soul." That was the first time I laughed in weeks. 3 months later, we were inseparable. A year later, married. And for a long time, I thought that meant something permanent, not invincible, just anchored. He was a school principal, Buttoned up, disciplined, but the kind of man who'd still cry at student graduations. He once got in trouble with the district for hugging too many parents. And I loved him. I did. Even when the bills stacked too high. Even when the silence between us started lasting longer than it used to. Even when he got that far-off look in his eyes and told me he was just tired. I thought that's what marriage was. Compromise. Patience. Waiting for the spark to come back like it had just gone out for groceries. But now I was standing in a house full of reminders, trying to remember which parts of it were real. There was this one moment I can't get out of my head. Last summer, he'd come home late from some conference out of town, said his phone died, no big deal. I made him tea, that same cracked cup. And when I handed it to him, I remember he flinched, barely. But not from the heat. From me. Back then I told myself I imagined it. I told myself he was tired, that people drift sometimes and come back. But sitting in that kitchen now, after the funeral, after those 7 words, I wasn't so sure anymore. In his last week, he had this moment of clarity, a kind of peace I hadn't seen in years. He made breakfast, wrote Ariella a long letter he said he'd give her later. And then he kissed me. Soft, gentle, like he was already apologizing for something. His last words to me weren't profound. He just looked at me across the table and said, "Whatever happens, give Ariella grace. He's more like me than you know." At the time I smiled, thought it was just his way of saying he loved us both. But now those words feel different, like a warning I didn't know was a warning. That night, I wandered into his closet. His shirt still smelled like cedar wood and cheap cologne. I held the flannel he always wore to fix things around the house. And tucked in the left breast pocket, a photo I hadn't seen before. Not of us, not of Ariella, but a woman. Younger, smiling. I didn't recognize her, didn't want to. I pressed the photo to my chest, and that old teacup, still in my hand, slipped and shattered on the floor. I didn't even flinch. Because something else had cracked before the porcelain ever hit the tile. There's a kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels loaded, like it's holding its breath, just waiting to detonate. That's what the house felt like the week after the funeral. Too still, too curated, like everyone was walking carefully around something no one wanted to name. Ariella was off. Polite, kind even, but not present. He was either in his room or out running errands that never came with receipts, and when he did talk to me, it was in this gentle, practiced tone, like he was managing me. Not loving me, not grieving with me, just managing. It started with small things. I found his father's cologne in his backpack. Not weird on its own, but Alaric hadn't worn it in months, and Ariella hated that scent. Always said it gave him headaches. Then, there was the dining room chair, the one that always wobbled a little on the back left leg. I came downstairs one morning and noticed it was fixed. Not by me. Not by a handyman. By someone who cared enough to notice the wobble, someone who usually wouldn't. And then I found the receipt. I was folding laundry. Alaric's last few shirts, Ariella's hoodie. Something crinkled in the pocket. I reached in, thinking maybe it was a wrapper or some old gum, but it was a folded piece of paper. Not just any paper. A hotel receipt. Downtown, 5-star, 1-night stay, 2 guests, room service, champagne and strawberries. Checkout, 9:13 a.m., Ariella's name. And next to it, Alaric Anthony Jr. My heart didn't just drop. It cracked. You know when something is so absurd, so wildly out of place, your first instinct is to laugh? I actually looked around the room, half expecting someone to jump out and tell me it was a prank. But there was no laughter in that silence. Just the slow realization that I didn't know what I was looking at, or who I was living with. I kept telling myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe he lent his name to a friend. Maybe it was some stupid attempt at self-care after the funeral. But champagne and strawberries? In a hotel room for 2? I didn't confront him. Not then. I wanted to pretend a little longer. Because once you open that door, once you ask the question, you can't close it again. You can't go back to not knowing. But the seed was planted. And then it bloomed fast. 3 days later, I walked past his room and heard whispering. Not on the phone, not a Zoom call, in person. The tone was hushed, intimate, like a lullaby that didn't want to be heard by the wrong ears. I knocked. No answer, just shuffling. A quick click, then silence. When Ariella opened the door, he was alone. He smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey, Mom? Need something?" I said no. I said I was just checking on him. But when I looked down, there were 2 coffee mugs on the desk, and only one son in the room. Later that night, I lay in bed with the cracked teacup on my nightstand, the one I hadn't been able to bring myself to throw away. It sat there like it was waiting to see how much more I could take before I broke like it did. I kept playing it over in my head. The hotel, the coffee mugs, the fixed chair. The way he held my gaze a little too long when I asked about his day, like he was deciding how much I could handle. And then the voicemail happened. I wasn't snooping, not intentionally. I was trying to log into our shared cloud account to cancel some of Alaric's subscriptions. Amazon, Netflix, Dropbox. One click led to another. And I saw an audio file, untitled, time-stamped just 3 weeks before his death. I hovered over it, froze. My chest tightened, and even though I knew I shouldn't press play, I did. And there it was. Alaric's voice, warm, familiar, unapologetic. She deserves the truth. I'm not coming back. 7 words, those 7 words. The ones my son repeated at the funeral. The ones I thought were about protecting me, grieving me, shielding me. They weren't. They were his father's. Not a reaction, a plan. He knew. Ariella knew. They were in this together. And suddenly, I wasn't mourning my husband anymore. I was mourning trust. I was mourning my son. I was mourning the version of our family that never really existed, just the one I thought I'd built. It was barely a week after the voicemail when she showed up. I didn't hear the door open. I just came downstairs one morning, and there she was, in my kitchen, pouring coffee into one of our mugs like it belonged to her. She looked young, late 20s, maybe. Dark hair, soft face, expensive perfume that didn't belong in a grieving widow's house. She turned to me like we were old friends meeting up for brunch. "Oh, I'm Danica. I was close with Alaric. Ariella invited me by." I stared at her. She was wearing Ariella's sweater, the one I bought for his birthday last year. She smiled like this was nothing, like I wasn't still sleeping on the side of the bed that hadn't cooled down yet. "I hope it's not weird. I just wanted to check in on Ariella. She's really special, you know?" I said nothing, because I couldn't speak without choking. Danica. I rolled her name around in my head like it might taste different if I bit down hard enough. She left after 15 minutes. Said she had to run, but not before giving me a side hug and saying, "You raised a really good man." A good man. She said it like she knew him, not from stories or social media, but from rooms I hadn't stepped into. After she left, I stood in the kitchen for a long time, still holding the mug she touched. The same mug Alaric used to drink from on Saturday mornings while reading the obituaries out loud like they were sports scores. And that's when I remembered something. A letter. No, 2. One he'd written for Ariella the week he died. And one he told me he'd mailed to an old friend after we'd had a fight 2 years ago. I never asked about that friend, because back then, I still believed we were unshakable. I searched everywhere. Drawers, closet bins, inside the old family albums. Nothing. And then, finally, under a stack of dusty board games in the hallway cabinet, I found a thin brown envelope. No return address. Just one word in the corner, Danica. Inside, a folded birthday card. Floral, simple, familiar. I'd seen this exact card before. Not this specific one, but the same design, because he'd given it to me 2 years earlier. I remember that birthday. He was late coming home, blamed traffic, said he grabbed the card last minute and wrote the first thing that came to mind. I didn't care. I laughed. I kissed him. I believed him. But now I was staring at the same card, same front, same font, and inside, the same words. "You are my home, no matter the cost." My breath caught. He didn't write it for me. He didn't even copy it for me. He reused it, like it was a coupon code, like love came from a template. I sat down hard on the kitchen stool, felt the floor spin, felt heat crawl up my neck like shame, except I hadn't done anything wrong. And then I did the thing I'd been avoiding. I walked back to the closet, to that box of things I hadn't touched since he passed. Inside was a folder, receipts, photo booth strips, handwritten notes on hotel stationery. The first one? "Can't stop thinking about that last time. You make me feel younger than I should." It wasn't signed, but it didn't have to be. I knew that handwriting. I'd traced those letters with my finger while lying next to him in bed, believing he was only mine. And suddenly, every kiss felt borrowed. Every anniversary counterfeit. Every ritual I once thought sacred, pancakes on Sundays, handwritten cards, the teacup, cheapened, reused. Like I'd been living in someone else's love story. Like I was the decoy while he waited for the real ending. The teacup wasn't on the counter anymore. I realized I'd thrown it out the night I found the voicemail. It hadn't even shattered when it hit the trash bin. It just landed there. Quiet. Final. Like it knew its time was up. Just like I knew now, I was never his only home. I don't know how long I sat there after reading that note. Maybe an hour. Maybe 3. The light in the hallway never changed, and neither did the sound in my ears, a soft, low roar, like my body had created its own kind of storm to muffle the truth. The letter was still in my hand, the same handwriting I used to keep in birthday cards, pressed between book pages like flowers. Now it just looked small. And that night, God help me, I still wasn't done finding out. It was around midnight when I got up. My hands moved without thinking, pulling out drawers, checking folders. Something inside me kept whispering, if he lied once, he lied more than once. I ended up back in the cloud account I'd used earlier to cancel his subscriptions. But this time, I checked the voice memo archive. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to hear his voice again. Maybe I was hoping for something to explain all of it. What I found wasn't what I expected. Another audio file. No title, no date, just 47 seconds long. I hit play, and Alaric's voice came through, clear, calm, like he was sitting right beside me again. Ariella, I know this is hard, but she deserves the truth. I'm not coming back. There it was, the 7 words, exactly as Ariella said them at the funeral, word for word. She deserves the truth. I'm not coming back. Only this time, I wasn't hearing it in passing. I wasn't hearing it secondhand. I was hearing it from him, and I was hearing it to my son. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just a secret. It was a plan. Ariella knew. My son knew. Not after the fact. Not accidentally. He helped him hide it. I froze the tape, paused it at the 39-second mark. Alaric was breathing into the phone. You could hear it, the soft guilt in every inhale. Then, you'll understand one day, I loved your mother. But I needed to be seen again. Danica sees me, in a way she never did. And then, cut. Just like that. I stared at the screen like it was mocking me. All this time, I'd thought Ariella was quiet because he was grieving. But now? Now I saw the weight in his silence for what it really was. Complicity. He knew Danica. He brought her here. He helped her walk into my kitchen like it was her place, not mine. Because to him, maybe it was. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the dark with my eyes wide open, the words replaying in my skull like a heartbeat. I'm not coming back. Not I love you. Not I'm sorry. Not tell her gently. Just gone. Cold. Decided. And I kept thinking, was he already planning to leave before the heart attack? Was he going to sit me down and tell me over coffee? Was he going to take Danica's hand and walk out of our house like he'd earned the right to choose a new story? Would he have asked Ariella to stay and take care of me? Had he already asked that? That was the part that broke me. Not the cheating, not even the lie. The planning. The way they thought I couldn't handle the truth, so they made sure I never would, and my own son helped. I reached for the mug on the nightstand. It wasn't the teacup. That was gone. This one was plain. White, no memories, no cracks. But even as I sipped, I could still taste bitterness. Because now I knew I wasn't grieving my husband anymore. Not really. I was grieving parenthood. I used to believe being a good mother meant protecting your children from pain. But what do you do when they become the source of it? What do you do when love and betrayal live in the same body, and that body is your son? The next morning, I looked in the mirror. And I didn't cry. Because something in me had shifted. Something had calcified, like scar tissue where trust used to be. And I told myself, you can't unhear the truth. But you can decide what you'll do with it. Some conversations don't need shouting. They don't need slamming doors or broken plates or neighbors listening through thin walls. They just need a chair, a table, and enough silence to let the weight of the words do the breaking for you. That's how I planned it. I waited until Friday. He came in late, hoodie half-zipped, laptop bag slung over one shoulder like nothing had changed. Like the world hadn't flipped while he was out pretending to be someone's son. Hey Mom, you need anything? I nodded toward the kitchen. Sit with me. He did, hesitant but not defensive. Like he knew, like his guilt walked in before he did. I didn't ask how he was. I didn't offer coffee. I just slid a folded piece of paper across the table, one of the hotel receipts. Not the original, I'd copied it. I wanted to keep the real one for myself. As proof. He looked down, didn't touch it, didn't blink, just said, "You found it." No panic, no denial, just resignation, like we were finally catching up to a truth that had already happened. I said nothing, so he spoke again, softly. "I didn't mean to hurt you, I just didn't know how to stop it." That sentence made something in me curl up and scream. But on the outside, I stayed still. "So you helped him hide it." He looked away. "He said you'd break, that it would kill you if you found out." I nodded, once, slowly. "You let me sit beside his body, not knowing who he really was. And you thought I couldn't handle it?" He said nothing. So I kept going. "She wore your sweater, Ariella. She stood in my kitchen. She drank from your father's mug like she earned the right." His shoulders tensed, and for the first time, I saw it. Shame, real shame. But not the kind that makes someone apologize, the kind that justifies itself. He was happy with her. You don't understand, you stopped seeing him. That was the crack. That was the moment I broke, quietly. I didn't stop seeing him. I just loved the version of him that wasn't trying to disappear. He looked at me then, fully, and what he said next, I'll never forget it. "You never made space for the version of him that was drowning." Danica did. I just wanted him to feel seen. And that was it, the final nail. I stood up, walked to the sink, turned on the faucet, didn't wash a thing. I just needed the noise. Because what do you say when your child becomes the courier of your betrayal? When they carry the torch of someone who left you in pieces? I turned back to him, looked him in the eye. He thought helping him lie was love, but it wasn't love. It was a quiet kind of cruelty, and the worst part, you didn't even mean to be cruel, you just were. He didn't cry, neither did I. Because this wasn't a breakdown, this was a reveal of who we both were now, of what we'd let slide, of everything we'd never get back. He stood, grabbed his bag, paused in the doorway. "I'm sorry," and I believe he meant it, but it wasn't enough. Not then, not after this. That night the house felt smaller, like it had lost another person, even though it was just the two of us all along. But the silence, that was new, that was permanent. Because some words don't just echo. They rearrange the walls they bounce off of. We didn't speak for 6 days after that night. He still lived here, still came and went, still made coffee too strong in the mornings, but we moved like shadows in the same space. Careful not to bump into each other. Careful not to spill what was already broken. I tried to distract myself. I cleaned out the coat closet, alphabetized the spice rack, scrubbed the grout with a toothbrush I'd never use again. And that's where it happened. In the back corner of the closet, beneath the winter coats I hadn't touched since last February, I found it. The navy raincoat, the one Alaric wore on weekends, the one that always smelled like firewood and rain. I reached into the pocket, expecting nothing, but my fingers brushed against folded paper. At first I thought it was another receipt, another crack in the illusion, but it was a note, yellowed, soft at the edges, written in his handwriting. No envelope, no date, just 3 words on the outside, for when needed. I opened it slowly, hands shaking like they already knew what it would say. "If you're reading this, I'm already gone. Don't protect him from pain. Just don't disappear from it. He needs to know you see him, even when you don't understand him." And at the bottom, small, "You loved the version of me that smiled through it, but he inherited the version I buried." I sat down on the hallway floor, didn't cry, didn't speak. Just let that truth settle somewhere deep in my chest, right next to the ache. Right next to the part of me that still wanted to reach for my son, even if my heart hadn't caught up yet. Grief doesn't just break us, it complicates us. It wraps love in pain and guilt in silence. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to feel yet. I hadn't lost everything. I still had a choice. Not to fix what broke, not to forget what happened, but to stay. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the son who betrayed me. Stay with the version of our family that wasn't pretty, but was still real. So I did something small. I made tea. Not the fancy kind. Just what we had. I knocked on his door. "No lecture," I said. "Just tea." He opened the door. Didn't say much, but he took the cup from my hands with eyes that looked more like mine than his father's, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't flinch when our fingers touched. That night, we didn't talk about anything that mattered. We just sat on the couch. He scrolled through his phone. I watched a documentary I'd seen before. But the silence was different. Less like drowning. More like floating. More like maybe something could still survive after the worst of it was over. It's been 3 months now. The house feels quieter. Not empty, just slower. Like the walls are exhaling after years of holding in a scream. Ariella moved out last week. College. Independence. Distance. He didn't say goodbye like a movie script. He just said, text me if you need anything. And I did the same. We talk. Not every day. Not like we used to. But when we do, there's less pretending now. More pauses. More truth. It's not better. Just different. And honestly, that might be enough. Danica, gone. No calls, no appearances, no closure. Just gone. The last I heard, she moved states. Left no forwarding address, which feels poetic, really. You don't always get to confront the ghost. Sometimes you just learn to stop opening the door. There's this spot on the porch where Alaric used to sit with his tea, same time every morning like clockwork. Same mug, same book, same view. I sit there now, same chair, new tea. The chipped teacup is gone. The white one broke last week, too. I haven't replaced either. Some things, I think, aren't meant to be replaced. I think about him sometimes. Not just the man who left me behind in pieces, but the man who made me pancakes in the shape of hearts. The man who rubbed my feet during our daughter's delivery. The man who once cried into my shoulder when his father died. He wasn't all one thing. He wasn't just the lie. And maybe that's what makes betrayal so cruel. It doesn't erase the love, it just stains it. I'll never get back who I was before the voicemail, before the letter, before Danica's smile in my kitchen and my son's silence at the funeral. But I still have a choice, to stay bitter, to break completely, or to carry the pain and love in the same hand, even if it's shaking. And some days I still shake, but I stay, not because I forgot, not because I forgive, but because I remember, all of it. Even the parts I wish I didn't. I opened a fresh journal this morning, one Alaric gave me years ago. I'd never written in it. The pages were too clean, but today, I do. Just one sentence. I lost a husband. I lost an illusion, but I stayed in love with the version of my son that still needed me. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Have you ever discovered a truth that didn't break you but made you question everything you believed about love? Comment yes or no. No judgment, no pressure. Just a space for the ones who stayed, even after it stopped making sense. And if this story stirred something in you, hit subscribe. Because this isn't just a story, it's a reminder. The deepest betrayals don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. And sometimes they carry your last name.